from Philly Chew in Falls. He wants to know, walk me through your post-snap reads on offense. All right, that's a great question. So this really kind of all depends on really the play you're in, but I'll run you through my reads the best I can. So let's come out, let's just say standard cover 3, and then let's come out offensively. I'll just show you what it looks like from like gun bunch, because that's a very big time formation I tend to use a lot. So let's go to like spot. Spot right here has a lot of different reads, a lot of different things happening. So my reads post snap, and to caveat off this, Philly Chew is asking like, walk me through your progression of like who you're looking at, when you're looking at them, and then like how do you get to the conclusion where to throw the ball. So I know that the question was post snap, but my reads start pre-snap. My reads start initially with looking at the safeties. Like I really do look at the safeties and look at their depth. Like the most important thing I could recommend to you guys is right when the play call breaks, like this is something I always get on Falls about, because there's so much information that happens from when the play is picked into like the first like second that the play art, like the screen play art shows, because you can see the original depth that your opponent is in. Like, because here's what happens: your opponent will go baseline press, and then like their defense adjusts to that, but there's like a split second where you can literally see the original like design and their depth, and there's a lot of tell in there of like, okay, that looks like it could have been a cover 3 because I saw one high safety, but then he base aligned and then he disguised it, but I saw that it was one high safety, so probably cover 3. Very much so the same for like cover 2 man or cover 2 zone. You can see those things. So I would say really important, pay attention to that first second, and then from there what I recommend is really paying attention of where your opponent is like manually moving defenders. So what I mean by that is like, this is all pre-snap, by the way. We're going to get the post-snap. But like if your defender goes like this, if your defender takes this defender here and then just chucks him like right there, like that should scream to you probably pressure off that edge. Like that's what that represents, right? So you need to recognize that and see that and then start anticipating maybe pressure off that edge. It doesn't always mean it, but just be ready for it. It could be pressure off that edge. So those are kind of some pre-snap reads. Now post-snap, what I like to do is I like to give myself, for my power formation gun bunch, I like to allow myself to read the field from left to right. And the reason I like doing that is because I like my brain, literally the way you read is from left to right. So for me, it's easy for me to watch the routes on the field and have the progression go from left to right. And typically with all the receivers on the left side of the field, they're going to run all the progressions to the right. In most cases, that's like where the most room is, so that's where they go. So for me, I like to run from left to right. That's why I run the bunch flipped. So the very first thing I look to, I always want to, it's more of like a philosophy. I don't like look to certain parts of the field. I look to certain routes. So the way I set my play up typically is I always give myself 2 short options. So I say, I'm going to give myself usually a drag and a slant on almost every play. I always want to have 2 short options so that if one of them's covered, most likely the other is open. Then from there, I always usually give myself an intermediate route. And then lastly, you have like your backbreaker, your big time route. And typically you wouldn't have another option. You usually wouldn't have like a 5th option, but in gun bunch quads you do. Like this guy potentially would be like my halfback blocking. But so in this case, we actually have 2 deep routes. We have short routes and intermediate routes. So the way I would recommend this to you now is you want to set your plays up so that when you are reading the defense, you read from short to intermediate, medium to deep. So it's short, medium, deep. And you want to look at all your short routes first and then go to the next route. So in this instance, what I do here is I'll motion out Wilson. I first look to the drag, then I look to the slant, then I look to the corner, and then I come back to my backbreaker. So the timing of everything is in unison with one another. So let's take a look at how this would work, right? Now, I didn't throw the ball there, but let's take a look. So the snap of the ball, the snap right here, I get a good read about like right there, like can I throw this or can I not? Like right there, I'm going to say I could maybe throw that drag, but he's probably only going to get 2 yards, so let's stay away from it. So then from right there, I then quickly scan. I quickly scan and I go right to the slant, right? And now I'm looking at this inside slant, and I see, okay, is he covered? Is he covered? Is he covered? And now I'm anticipating the linebacker over the middle of the field, and I see that, and he's covered. Then I look to the slant out or the corner, the intermediate route, and I see that there's a defender over there. I'm like, uh-oh, he's all covered. At this point of the play, I now go to my deep options because everything underneath short and intermediate is covered. And then at this point, I would go to my deep pattern, and I tried to throw it there, and ultimately I got sacked. But that's the progression I give. It's more not like where do I look on the field, but it's more set yourself up for success. Like play design and route concepts and routes you run. Like one of the biggest things I see people do that make mistakes is they do something like this. And Farles does it all the time, and I somehow like he's really good at it, but I get really frustrated because he'll do something like this. He'll be like, yeah, man, like I'm running this play right here, man. This is awesome, man. And I'm like, Farles, you're running 3 streaks all in the same area of the field. Well, yeah, I only want to throw to Macklin or Conley. Well, Farles, what about your other 3 options? Like, set yourself up for success. Give yourself some options in case, like, those other routes don't work, right? Or, like, you'll see someone do this. Like, they're going to go, I'm going to run Kelsey, and then I'm going to run Wilson, and I'm going to run 2 drags. Like, you don't want to run 2 drags. Like, you don't want to run 2 drags that close to one another. You're going to set yourself up for failure. So, you want balance, and you want levels of where your routes go. So, again, the recommendation would be always give yourself 2 underneath options, give yourself an intermediate route, and then give yourself a bailout route. So this is what the Z-spot route looks like. But let's take a look at another play I've been running quite a bit, which is our quick out of the left here, the bunch trail. So I know you guys have probably seen a lot of how I've been playing online lately, and one of the routes and plays I do is the following. I motion this corner to the right side of the field, and then I put double drags to RB and B. Well, let's break this play down from what I just mentioned about spot. You now have 2 drags, right? So your 2 drags are your 2 short options, and they run a mesh together, and they run good spacing. Then you have Kelsey, who becomes a 3rd short route into an intermediate route because he runs a Texas angle route, so he breaks to the flat, and if there's no one there, you could throw it to him. But then he progresses downfield, and it kind of runs like it ends up being kind of like a post. So you have kind of 3 short patterns. Then you have Kelsey who runs the intermediate route, and then you have the deep pattern to Macklin. So again, you can see how this short to medium to deep route passing routes that you have on the field all complement each other and all balance each other. That's the general rule I would recommend to you as you're setting up your plays. Don't focus so much on like, oh, I need to first look at the middle linebacker, then I need to look at the corner. Don't concern yourself with that. Concern yourself with good route spacing and good depth of all your routes, and make sure they all blend together. Like, what do you not want? You don't want this. You don't want Kelsey, Wilson, and Conley, 3 guys running drags. Like, you don't want that. You don't want that many guys running that many drags, because then it makes it easier for the defense to defend what you want to do.